Welcome back to the Shigeaki Podcast, where we help you turn small, overlooked habits into lasting health, especially after 60. Let me start with someone I think about often. Her name was Anne. She was 72, living alone, still driving, still sharp. But she had three things she couldn't shake. Blood sugar that hovered just above normal A waistline that kept expanding no matter how little she ate. And LDL cholesterol that made her cardiologist nervous. She was tired, but she didn't want more medication, so we tried something different. I told her, let's not add pills, let's add a plant, one simple leaf, in the form of warm tea, every afternoon after lunch. That was the only change. No new diet, no fasting, no supplements. 3 months later, her fasting glucose dropped 12 points. Her cholesterol improved without statins. And her belly, she said, felt lighter, like it finally let go of something it was holding for years. What was the leaf? We'll tell you in a moment. But more importantly, we'll show you why leaves the kind you walk past, ignore, or toss aside might hold exactly what your aging body is missing. And I can't think of anyone better to explore this with than my friend and mentor, Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara. He's a neurologist, a teacher, and a living lesson in resilience, still writing, still teaching, still speaking well past the age of 100. More importantly, he's someone who's treated not just illness, but the patterns of long life in thousands of patients over nearly a century. Dr. Hinohara, welcome back.
Thank you, Dr. Hyman. I'm honored as always. In Japan, we have a saying, a leaf is not just a leaf. It is memory. It is medicine. We've used them for generations, not as decoration, but as gentle support, not to cure, but to balance, especially in older adults where the liver slows, the blood thickens, the stomach weakens. Leaves offer quiet help. They don't fight the body, they remind it.
That's what today's episode is about. 10 medicinal leaves backed by science and tradition that support lower blood sugar, better cholesterol, less belly fat, and calmer digestion. We'll explain what they are, how they work, and most importantly, how to actually use them.
You do not need a cabinet full of pills. Sometimes one leaf, one cup, one quiet ritual done every day is enough to shift the body back toward balance. Let's begin.
After 60, the body begins to shift in quiet but powerful ways. You may still eat well, you may still move your body, but somehow the belly grows. The blood sugar climbs the numbers on your chart edge upward. Why? Because your metabolism slows. Your insulin response weakens. Your liver doesn't filter as efficiently. And the inflammation that once disappeared overnight now lingers. At this stage of life, what you eat matters more, and what your body can absorb matters even more. That's why I love using plants, especially leaves. Unlike supplements which flood your system, or medications which override it, leaves whisper instructions to your cells. They carry compounds that support your body's own ability to heal. Some slow down sugar absorption. Some reduce internal fat production. Some help the liver clear out toxins that interfere with insulin. And they do it gently, without shock, without force.
Yes, in traditional Japanese medicine, we do not ask what will cure this. We ask what will support this body to restore itself. That is the work of leaves. Their bitterness improves digestion. Their fiber supports the gut. Their plant chemicals, many with names like DNJ-European quercetin, have been doing the work of balancing blood sugar and calming the blood for centuries. But most importantly, leaves require respect. They are not taken in capsules. They are prepared, boiled, steeped, sipped slowly. This changes the pace of the day, and that matters too.
Right. And from a Western perspective, we now have clinical studies showing how certain leaves lower post-meal glucose, reduce LDL cholesterol, and reduce markers of fatty liver. But it's not just the compound, it's the ritual that surrounds it. Making a warm tea, sitting down after a meal, letting your nervous system slow. That's when these plants do their best work, when you let them help.
And they don't confuse the body. After 60, many people are already on 3, 5, even 8 medications. One more pill, even natural, may be too much. But a tea made from leaves, the body understands it, the gut accepts it, the liver welcomes it. Not all at once, but gradually. And after weeks or months, people begin to say, "My pants fit better. I don't feel so bloated after meals. My doctor said my sugar improved." These are not small things.
So, in the rest of this episode, we'll explore 10 leaves that support these outcomes: blood sugar control, lower cholesterol, reduced belly fat, and calmer, more effective digestion. We'll explain how each one works, what the science says, how they've been used for centuries, and how you can easily bring them into your life. Because sometimes the most powerful medicine grows quietly on the edge of your garden. Let's begin with the first group leaves that help balance your blood sugar. Let's begin with one of the most powerful and underrated ways to manage blood sugar, not by adding more supplements or stricter diets, but by introducing the right leaves. And the first group we'll cover today includes 3 medicinal leaves with remarkable effects on glucose metabolism: mulberry leaf, guava leaf, neem leaf. All 3 have been used in traditional medicine for centuries. Today we also have modern studies confirming their effects. Let's dive in. 1. Mulberry leaf. Mulberry leaf contains a compound called DNJ, 1-deoxynogermycin. This compound inhibits the enzymes that break down carbohydrates in the gut. What that means is, when you eat carbs, mulberry slows their conversion into glucose, reducing post-meal blood sugar spikes. It doesn't stop you from digesting it, just softens the blow.
In Japan, we have used mulberry leaf for generations, not just for diabetes, but also for calming the liver and balancing energy after meals. We serve it as tea after rice-based dishes. It is not sweet, it is slightly bitter, which is good. Bitterness wakes up the digestion.
The science backs this up. Several studies in people with prediabetes and type 2 diabetes show that mulberry tea taken with or after meals improves glucose control significantly over time. And the best part, it's safe, gentle, and accessible. How to use: brew as tea, drink 10-20 minutes after meals. Especially meals with carbs, 1-2 times daily. Avoid drinking on an empty stomach. Guava leaf. Guava leaf is another plant that's gaining attention. It works in 2 ways. It reduces alpha-glucosidase activity, delaying sugar absorption. It helps lower triglyceride levels, which is important because high blood sugar and high triglycerides often go hand in hand.
Guava leaves are common in many parts of Asia. In Okinawa, they're used not only for blood sugar, but also for bloating and digestion. I often recommend guava leaf tea after a heavy meal. It helps prevent the crash that many older people feel after eating too much starch.
And it's especially helpful for people with metabolic syndrome, those with belly fat, insulin resistance, and high blood pressure. How to use dried guava leaves or guava leaf tea bags. Brew in hot water, steep 5 and 10 minutes. Drink after lunch or dinner, not on an empty stomach. 1 cup per day is usually enough. 3. Neem leaf. Neem is stronger. It's not for everyone. But for people with consistently high blood sugar, it can be a useful addition if used carefully. Neem has hypoglycemic effects. It can actively lower blood sugar by improving insulin sensitivity and reducing glucose production in the liver. It also has antimicrobial and liver-supportive effects, which makes it useful in cases where metabolic imbalance is connected to inflammation.
In traditional systems, neem is considered cooling and cleansing. It's not pleasant to taste, but it's effective especially for people with oily skin, heavy tongue, or signs of heat in the liver. But I always remind patients, don't use strong herbs. Like neem, casually use them with guidance and respect.
Exactly. I recommend neem only for those who are monitoring their blood sugar regularly or under supervision. How to use: start with neem tea or standardized neem extract. Drink 1-2 times per week, not daily. Avoid using with blood sugar medications unless advised. Never drink on an empty stomach.
Leaves are not medicine in the Western sense. They are support, subtle, slow, but powerful over time. If you listen to your body while you use them, you'll notice better energy, clearer mornings, less bloating, more calm after meals, and that is the beginning of healing.
Let's move from blood sugar to cholesterol, Because for most people over 60, high cholesterol, especially high LDL, is part of the bigger picture of metabolic decline. Now, cholesterol isn't the enemy, but when it builds in the wrong places, inflames the arteries, and comes with high triglycerides, it becomes a risk. Luckily, there are 3 leaves that can help shift that balance: olive leaf, lotus leaf, curry leaf. These aren't exotic supplements. They're simple leaves used in food and medicine for centuries. 4. Olive leaf. Olive leaf contains oleuropein, a polyphenol known to reduce LDL cholesterol support, arterial flexibility, and even lower mild hypertension. It's especially helpful in people with early signs of atherosclerosis or those with family history of heart disease.
In Japanese medicine, we value olive not just for the oil, but the leaf. It's cooling, anti-inflammatory, and supports circulation. Older adults who use it often notice less swelling, steadier pulse, and even improved sleep.
And it's easy to use. How to use: brew as tea or use olive leaf extract. 1 cup per day is enough. Best taken mid-morning or early afternoon. Avoid mixing with blood pressure meds without guidance. 5. Lotus leaf. Lotus leaf is fascinating. It's been shown to reduce total cholesterol and LDL, support weight management, act as a mild diuretic, helping reduce bloating and fluid retention.
Lotus is sacred in our culture, and its leaf is deeply cleansing. It helps people feel lighter, not just in weight, but in circulation. It supports the liver, clears heat, and reduces excess dampness, all things that build up with age and slow blood movement.
And for people with fatty liver or borderline blood pressure, it's a gentle way to support vascular function. How to use: dry lotus leaf steep, 10-15 minutes. Drink after lunch or early evening, 2 to 3 times per week. Don't take on an empty stomach if prone to low blood pressure. 6. Curry leaf. This is a hidden gem. Curry leaves from the curry tree, not curry spice, are rich in antioxidants and have been shown to lower total cholesterol, reduce LDL, improve insulin sensitivity, help protect against oxidative stress in the heart and liver.
Curry leaves are used daily in South Indian cooking, not just for taste, but for strength. They support the gut, the liver, and help clear stagnant energy after rich meals.
They're easy to incorporate and surprisingly delicious. How to use: add fresh or dried curry leaves to soups, stews, stir-fries, can be blended into tea or powdered into spice. Use daily in small amounts. Avoid burning them. Gentle heat preserves nutrients. So, in summary, our next 3 leaves for heart health are olive leaf, lowers LDL, supports arteries; lotus leaf, supports cholesterol, reduces bloat; curry leaf, improves lipids, boosts metabolism. They're not prescriptions, they're quiet allies. The kind of daily support your heart appreciates more with age.
We do not wait until disease arrives to care for the heart. We support it each day with small things, warm, bitter green, and wise. And that is what these leaves offer. Dose.
Now let's talk about something that most people over 60 struggle with: belly fat and a tired liver. Even if your weight is stable, fat often gathers around the waist, the abdomen, and deep inside, around the organs. We call it visceral fat, and it's dangerous. It fuels inflammation, it worsens insulin resistance, and it overloads the liver, which then struggles to regulate blood sugar hormones and detoxification. So, how do we support the liver and reduce belly fat gently, without crash diets or stimulants? There are 4 leaves I recommend often: dandelion leaf, physalis leaf, peppermint leaf, perilla leaf. 7. Dandelion leaf. Dandelion leaf acts as a mild diuretic, a liver stimulant, and a digestive supporter. It helps remove excess water weight, but also encourages bile flow, which supports fat digestion and reduces liver congestion.
We often use dandelion leaf in Japan as a spring cleansing herb. Older adults with puffy legs, bloated belly, or poor sleep after meals benefit from it. Not too much, just a cup of tea after lunch a few times a week. How to use: dried leaf steep for 5-10 minutes. Drink after lunch 2-3 times per week. Not for people with known kidney or gallbladder issues, without supervision.
8. Physalis, leaf. Physalis, also known as ground cherry or tam bop, is used in folk medicine across Asia. It has anti-inflammatory effects, supports blood sugar stability, and helps detoxify the liver. Some studies show it reduces lipid accumulation in the liver and may protect against fatty liver disease.
Physalis leaf is gentle but deeply nourishing. I've seen elderly patients with fatigue fullness after meals and stubborn belly fat respond well to it. How to use? Use as a mild tea, 1-2 times per week, best in the afternoon or early evening.
9. Peppermint leaf. Peppermint is simple but often overlooked. It's not just for fresh breath. It helps relax digestive muscles, improve bile flow, and reduce post-meal bloating. That matters because poor digestion sows more fermentation, sows more inflammation, especially around the belly.
Older adults often lose appetite or feel uneasy after eating. Peppermint tea after a meal brings clarity, calm, and comfort. 3 things digestion needs after 60. How to use: fresh or dried leaf. Steep 5 minutes. Drink after heavy meals. Safe daily.
10. Perilla leaf. Perilla leaf is rich in ALA omega-3 antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds. It supports fat metabolism, helps stabilize insulin, and promotes gut comfort. It's great for people with abdominal weight gain, joint stiffness, or gut sensitivity.
In Japan and Korea, perilla leaf is eaten almost every day, raw, cooked, or as tea. We believe it helps the body breathe better, especially when overwhelmed by food heat or emotional stress. How to use: eat raw in salads, lightly cooked or brewed as tea. Use daily in small amounts. Pairs well with rice broth or grilled vegetables.
So, to close this list, the last 4 leaves are dandelion leaf, clears the liver, reduces fluid retention; physalis leaf, protects liver, reduces belly fat; peppermint, calms digestion, reduces bloating; perilla leaf, fights inflammation, supports insulin, aids gut health. These aren't trendy, they're timeless. They won't burn fat overnight, but they change your internal chemistry little by little, day by day.
And that's the way we honor the body, not by fighting it, but by working with it. Give it the right leaves, the right moments, the right preparation, and it remembers how to feel light again.
If you're listening right now and wondering where to begin, start with 1 cup, 1 warm tea after lunch, 1 cooked leaf added to dinner. Do it for 7 days. Then notice, not just the numbers, but how your body feels when it's not overloaded, how your sleep improves, how your belly softens, how your energy returns not as intensity, but as steadiness.
In Japan, we don't treat old age as something to fear. We treat it as a time to refine, to simplify, to listen. And when you use food, especially leaves, as daily medicine, you don't just extend life. You improve how it feels, not by adding more, but by using less more wisely.
This is the Shigeaki Podcast, where we share the ancient and the proven to help you live longer, lighter, and better after 60. Subscribe if this episode helped you. Share it with someone who's ready to trade pills for plants, or at least start small. Leave us a review. It helps more people discover quiet solutions to loud problems. Until next time, drink slowly, eat simply, and let your body remember how to feel well again.